Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
There's many people, like Jonathan said, that are in the same situation or similar, and they have no recourse. So I'm not fighting. We're standing up for, trying to stand up for our rights for us, and hopefully this will help others in the future.
He's suffering because he has no income because he's been shut down by the government-mandated closure of indoor recreational facilities.
Who knew that this was going to happen? Nobody knew this was going to happen. So how do you prepare for that?
We haven't been able to leave. So we've been like prisoners here, not been able to go out for a walk together, and someone has to be here at all times. It has been like that for the last at least a couple of months.
We are in communication with the Landlords Council. We are trying to make what I believe are more than reasonable efforts to resolve the situation.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. Well, folks, I'm back at the Tiger Dragon Martial Arts Centre. You may recall a few months ago, we came by to chronicle the sad story of Carey and Lesley Stone. They are the proprietors here. As you know, the pandemic hit some 15 months ago. Things were shut down, including martial arts studios, and through no fault of his own, the Stones could not take in any more clients, and that put a crunch on revenues, and eventually the landlord came calling and wanted, well, the business to shut down. And even worse than being put out of business, folks, Carey and Lesley live here, so in effect they would be rendered homeless if that were to come to fruition. So needless to say, Carey and Lesley are undergoing the battle of their lives. But there's an update. I'm also here with Jonathan Pachin. He is their lawyer. He's going to help them, and I can tell you, I know you really needed a lawyer, Carey. But first things first, when we did your original plight, many people commented that, well, all kinds of businesses have been shut down during the pandemic, and there are federal and even provincial government programs to help prop them up. And it turns out you didn't qualify due to a technicality. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we're still working on it, but yes, there is a technicality that's kept us from being able to collect the government funding.
And namely, several years ago, you had to declare bankruptcy. And then when you got back in business, I guess the crux of the matter is you did not get a business registration number. And the lack of having that business registration number by September 27th, 2020, that is why the, I guess the Canadian Revenue Agency is refusing to qualify you for these programs.
Exactly. But I mean, we've been running a business 16 and a half years. We pay taxes. We're not on the system. You know, we're looking after ourselves, so we don't cost the system money. We're a legitimate business like any other business that's registered, and we were registered, and I did not realize that. Of course, who knew that this was going to happen? Nobody knew this was going to happen. So how do you prepare for that?
Oh no, like you being in the business of this location over 7 years, who could have ever guessed more than 7 years ago, even 2 years ago, we were going to go into a global pandemic. But Jonathan, let me ask you, that is the crux of the matter, is it not? At least when it comes to the CRA, they have to be wary, you know, justifiably so, of people trying to scam the system, game the system, pretend they're a business when they never were a business. This is not the case with Carey. Can you tell me what the discussions have been like with the CRA to, I guess, establish a business registration number so that he can qualify for some of these programs?
Yeah, so I haven't been directly involved with discussions with the CRA, but Mr. Stone has an accountant who's been assisting him. And my discussions with him are that it was only after registering for a new business number that it even came to light that this old business number, which existed prior to Mr. Stone's bankruptcy, was basically voided as a result of the bankruptcy. Not knowing this, Mr. Stone has operated his business for several years at the location we're standing at right now for at least 7 years, I believe. And I think the real question becomes, as you said, no one's trying to game the system here. This is sort of a technicality. And the accountant who is trying to speak with CRA and reach a higher up is trying to show CRA, look, he's operational. He has been operational for a number of years that predate this September 27th, 2020 sort of artificial cutoff date. He is someone who is suffering. He's suffering because he has no income because he's been shut down by the government mandated closure of indoor recreational facilities. But otherwise, and but for this pandemic that we're in, Mr. Stone's been operating a martial arts studio at the location we're standing at for 7 years, and there's been no issue with ever paying rent. So we are still hopeful that someone higher up at CRA can look at sort of the totality of the circumstances here, look at bank records, look at financial records, and one of two things we're hopeful for is either a backdating of the new business registration number to before September 27th, 2020, which would therefore likely make him qualifiable. Or secondly, if his original business number, which was voided or put on the shelf, or I'm not sure how CRA categorizes it, but that is reactivated, and therefore he would have a pre-existing business registration number. So the avenues are twofold, and we are hopeful that someone at CRA can look into this a little bit further, and we're thankful to Mr. Kleiman for his assistance in helping Carey throughout this process as well.
And Jonathan, I don't see it as too much of an ask. And, you know, what we've been hearing for the last year and a half when it comes to this pandemic, it's the oft-repeated quote, "We're all in this together." I don't think that's entirely true. I think if you're in government, if you're in the public service, you haven't missed 1 hour's worth of work. If you're a private sector operator like Carey here, well, so many thousands have been put out of business. Here is a lifeline in which just somebody senior at the CRA has to just reestablish a business registration number. Like I said, not too much of an ask. We're not asking the CRA to run a triathlon here.
No, I think that Mr. Stone is likely not the only person in a situation like this. And I think, and I don't work for the government, but I would think that a process could relatively easily be implemented to say on a case-by-case basis, if you don't meet our requirements on its face, if you can establish that you were an operational business, whether it be by bank records, whether it be by some other means, affidavit evidence or something like that, I'm sure Mr. Stone would have hundreds, if not thousands, of students willing to testify or provide to the government some evidence that they've been coming here and taking martial arts lessons since well before September of 2020. And hopefully, whether not only for Mr. Stone, but for anybody else in the same situation, that is something that changes in potentially a next iteration of this CERS program.
So I interrupt this video for a very urgent message. You know it's only a matter of time before the Silicon Valley tech giants come and crush Rebel News, or at least try to crush Rebel News once and for all. We're not going to let that happen. Please go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We need you to sign up with us there on our website. We need your phone number. We need your email address. We do not share your personal information with anyone else, but if we can get that information from you, you can maintain your relationship with Rebel News going forward in the future. And Jonathan, the other angle to this plight that the Stones are in, it's the landlord that I think has come a couple of times with the intention of changing the locks to force you out, to deny you entry. How are things going on that front in terms of, I don't know, getting a little leeway with the landlord? Again, the Stones aren't people trying to run a scam and trying to be the tenants from hell not paying rent. They just need to get their business in order, which was shut down by forces well beyond their control.
Well, the matter is before the courts right now, and will be in court for a hearing on June the 29th. We're still in the pleading phase, and I've been assisting Mr. Stone with regards to that. I won't go into too much of it because things could change. We are in communication with the Landlords Council. We are trying to make what I believe are more than reasonable efforts to resolve the situation. You know, there's the landlord is owed money. I mean, Carey has a lease, and there's a certain amount of money that's owed every month. The issue from more of an equitable standpoint, if you will, and our courts are still courts of equity. They're courts of law and equity. There is currently a moratorium on evictions for unpaid rent. The Commercial Tenancies Act has been amended to prohibit a judge in the Superior Court from evicting a commercial tenant solely on the basis of unpaid rent. And there's other issues that have been raised in this application, one of them being that Mr. Stone is residing at the location. But in my opinion, the tertiary issues, if you will, are really just the guise by the landlord to say, I want you out because you're not paying me and you owe me this amount of money. And I think I'm hopeful that a court will see through that, and we'll be able to have Mr. Stone at least continue on at this location, and while we try and get him government assistance.
Well, I wish you every success there, Jonathan. And Leslie, can you tell me, as Jonathan mentioned, this is not only your place of business, it is your residence. The stress, I just can't imagine it, of, you know, forces at play trying to evict you from your home. I mean, where would you go? That's a huge question. But what has that been like, you know, living with this sort of Damocles over your head that, you know, there are forces trying to evict you, not just out of your business, but out of your home as well? Well,
it's been very traumatizing, and trying to keep the stress level down myself with different means. I'm so thankful I have my martial arts, which helps me. You know, I'm still practicing on my own, because that's one thing that keeps me, it helps to keep me a little bit more grounded and be able to keep my mind straight. And otherwise I would go crazy, and so it's just what I do, just for my own health, to try and keep me. Otherwise it is very difficult trying to keep everything together. And
as I understand that either you or Carey are always here in case
we haven't been able to leave. So we've been like prisoners here, not being able to go out for a walk together. And someone has to be here at all times. It has been like that for the last at least couple of months.
And that's just in case the landlord were to come in.
Because you know, we're having to keep the door locked and make sure that, you know, it's scary, because he's done it before, and I don't trust him that he wouldn't try it again.
Gotcha. Well, Carey, I mean, you know, we all wish you the best of luck. Again, you are literally a victim of circumstance. No one saw a pandemic coming. Years ago, you didn't know that a little detail like a business registration number would, you know, might be a potential lifeline to you. But one bright side of the story is you have Jonathan as your lawyer. You were very stressed out that you didn't have good legal representation before, so at least that's a plus. At least there's some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of your battle, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very thankful. And I actually owe that to two people. One is Stephen, one's Rebecca. Okay. From Stanford, they stepped up to the plate, and I don't know why. Stephen I met at a rally, and Rebecca I still haven't met. As a matter of fact, I can't wait to meet her, because she actually put me in touch with 3 lawyers. And Jonathan was the last one I called after more than 40 lawyers. Wow. And I don't know what's wrong with him, just as I don't know what's wrong with Leslie. She's been with me for 38 years, and I can't get rid of her, which I'm being silly, obviously. But
well, I don't think there's anything wrong with either of them, to tell you the truth. But, you know, you did mention off camera, part of your battle is, of course, you know, raising money. You can't. We're still under a lockdown mode that you can't have students come and pay for their lessons, which is truly handcuffing you. So I understand, to raise money for your legal defense, you have a GoFundMe page. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do, and thank you for that, because it's really our saving grace. And our GoFundMe is help us save our business. Carey Stone. And really.
And if you can spell your name, just
Careystone.
Okay.
So we're very thankful for anybody who's already donated and anybody who will in the future, because again, we're not just fighting for us. There are many people in our position. Of course, we come first in this instance because it's our livelihood, it's our residents. But I'm sure there's many people, like Jonathan said, that are in the same situation or similar, and they have no recourse. So I'm not fighting. We're standing up trying to stand up for our rights, for us, and hopefully this will help others in the future.
100%, and it was never your fault. And that is the story, folks. I mean, this business registration number, who could have foreseen that would be so important in 2020? And as well, the idea of government shutting down so many businesses in the name of safety due to the pandemic, well, that's not the fault of the Stones either. So, you know, here we are, Carey and Lesley, they do have a very good lawyer in the form of Jonathan Pachin. And I guess moving forward, you really are going to fight like a tiger and fight like a dragon, I suppose, because this really is the fight of your life, isn't it, Carey?
Yes, sir, it is. We've been down before, and we'll get through this somehow. And we're very fortunate to know people like you and Jonathan, and your cameraman is a great guy. And we've developed a lot of nice friendships with people that we didn't even know. And it's you know what, there is beauty in the world, and there are really nice people.
Well, we're all rooting for you, Carey. And folks, we will continue to follow the case of the Tiger Dragon Martial Arts Center when there is another development. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, you've probably heard the news by now. YouTube is undoubtedly coming to kill us. They have completely demonetized us. The other day, they gave us a strike for no good reason whatsoever. So please, we want you to stay in touch with Rebel News. Go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We need some of your personal information, such as your email or cell phone number. Trust me, we don't share that with anyone, but we want to remain relevant to you, and we can't depend on YouTube any longer.